What's up, Rooted Collective? I am Denise. Welcome back to Awakened and Rooted, where we dive deep into the spooky and the spiritual. So if you are ready, stay rooted to your seats and let's get started.
What's a coincidence that you think about a lot? I'll go first. I think a lot about how.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with trigger warning, disturbing content, because this might be one of the scariest things you will ever hear. Okay? I'm going to do this as best I can, as calmly as I can. So be patient with me. I'm extremely traumatized. I also want to point out that these are the facts. This is what happened. And if for any reason this disturbs you and you need to message me or something, you are more than welcome to. Paranormal help, support, and astrology. Okay. So when I was young, my brother would scare me with stories of possession. He would scare me stories of possession, and he would scare me with what's called a devil mask. And my mom would always get so upset with him because I grew up spiritual and we knew that there were darker entities on the other side. We were taught how to combat them, and we were taught how to basically deal with them. And we knew that if we kept our vibration high and we believed in trust in the Lord and God and our higher power, everything would be fine and we didn't have to worry about it. So that growing up that way helped me understand that being very spiritual helped me understand that there's more to this life that we don't know. Okay. All right. And so my father's side, he grew up in a very abusive environment. His parents would fight constantly, and it was a domestic violence situation. They were drunks. And my father came from a very abusive, broken household. Okay. And I never met my grandmother because she was wicked and crazy. All right. She tried to unalive my mom, and just she would write sigils on our doors, and she's scary. Okay. You have to understand, I grew up spiritual. Okay. My great grandmother and my father's side, everybody in my family spiritual. Okay. And so she would write sigils on our door and try to curse us and say mean things. And we just were never allowed to meet her. This was my father's side. She eventually died of cirrhosis of the liver. Her husband, I did meet my great grandfather before he passed away. Not my great grandfather, my grandfather of my dad's side before he passed away. Every single time I saw him, okay, I thought he was a really nice guy. I thought he was cool and everything, but he never liked us kids. He didn't really want anything to do with the kids. He always just wanted to talk to my parents. And according to my mom, he was abusive. He wasn't a very nice guy. He said he was kind of like a troublemaker, would start drama and stuff. And every single time I saw him, he would wink at me. And I always didn't understand that. And I asked my parents one day, why does Grandpa West wink at me? And they'd say, oh, that's just what he does. He's always done that. Now, he passed away when I was about 8 or 9. He died of cirrhosis of the liver as well. They had twins, which was my dad and my dad was fraternal twins. So he had a sister, okay? And the sister, she passed away of cirrhosis of the liver as well. Every single time I saw her, she would also wink at me. My mom would tell me not to trust my aunt, which was my dad's sister. She'd say, I don't trust her. I don't think she's good. I think she has negative energy around her. I don't want you to be alone with her. There was a rumor that she had touched her kids in inappropriate ways. And so I grew up knowing that no, not cool. Not a good thing. And so, but she always winked at me as well. As I grew older or whatever, I met a psychopath, and I didn't know he was a psychopath. Okay. I grew up in an abusive household, couldn't see red flags. Okay. One night, he also was an alcoholic. Okay. And he went to sleep and he woke up and he said, I'm going to enjoy using your husband's body to unalive you. And then he came after me with brutality and force like you'd never see. Okay. Scary, scary murder show stuff, horror horrific horror film stuff, spoke of Satan and demons and things that are found in the Goetica and things that are found in the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and spoke of all of these things and said, I'm going to end you. Like, you're the only one that can't see past what's going on, and I have minions everywhere, and that basically I needed to be gotten rid of because I was the catalyst in the plan, and that I would be the reason why things wouldn't come to be, and that they were hell-bent on getting rid of me, okay? And all the while, I was basically unalived, okay? He plastic bag over my head and wrestling knives and all this. I can't really get into my trauma. I don't really want to, okay? But I have reoccurring nightmares of being in a box, okay? And like a trunk, okay? Anyways, regardless, I seriously, all the while this was happening, and while they were like, he was speaking as though he was a demon and talking about all these things and stuff, he was winking at me while he was trying to unalive me and was touching himself. And I didn't understand why he would wink at me. I thought that was just weird. Like, the only persons who ever winked at me, like, were in my family, were people that my parents would say, they're not really great people. Okay? And he winked at me. So, I heal from all of this to a degree. I'm attacked again, and then I go into a psychosis. The reason I went into a psychosis was I didn't want to go to sleep because I was fearful that the psychopath was going to finish doing what he did to me, right? He's going to finish unaliving me, or he spoke, because he attacked me again and then spoke of like Satan and all those other things again. All right. And again, I lived because I'm a warrior and I fight through things. And after that attack or whatever, I went into a deep psychosis. Now, what threw me into psychosis was knowing about the paranormal and what's called transmigration. Okay. And I knew that from paranormal accounts, being a paranormal specialist, okay, that transmigration means that entities, spirits can attach to people in any shape, way, or form they want to. Okay. They can move from person to person to person. So knowing this, knowing that I had been attacked by what could have possibly been an entity, okay, this is what drove me insane. This is what drove me to voluntary. Because I literally was being winked at by everybody in my psychosis. For whatever reason, I didn't understand why, but I would look at people and they would wink at me. And I'd say, why are you winking at me? And they'd say, oh, lighten up. I'm just playing with you. Or they'd say, I didn't wink at you. I don't know what you're talking about. And because in my psychosis, I'd never been in a psychosis before, I thought I was losing my mind. So I recorded people. They were definitely winking at me because I would show other people. I'd say, yeah, they winked. What about it? And I'm like, that's scary. That's really scary. And they're like, Buffy, people wink. The problem with this is that I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid to go to sleep because I was afraid that the psychopath who had the entity attached to him would finish me off. So I refused, okay? And I was afraid that this thing was hopping around and would hop into someone else and finish me off. So this is why I didn't go to sleep. Okay, I refused to go to sleep, and I was terrified. All the while, on the last day of my psychosis, when I really had lost my mind about Satans and demons and believed I was diabolically possessed, okay, again, the EMS and everyone was winking at me in my psychosis. Do I know on the very last day if people were actually winking? I don't, because I didn't actually record them. Okay, so, but that's what it was like when they were putting me out and I thought I was going to die. And because I was under diabolical possession. It's a long story. You'd have to check my page if you want to know the details. Because during this psychosis, I had a vision that said, if I go to the hospital, I'll die. And so when I was there, I thought I was dying and people were winking at me. Now that I'm healed, and as I grow stronger, I meet people who are on the darker path, and I watch their videos, and they wink. They wink. And I meet people who are in what appears to be paranormal crisis, as if like they're experiencing what we would call a possession, and they wink. They wink. People send me the videos all the time and say, look at this. And then I notice that they wink. And to this day, if I get scared, And I don't know why. If I get scared or if I have any sort of like fear in me, people start to wink at me on the street. And so I preface this with saying that now that you know this, be careful, because if you see someone wink at you and you're scared, you could be in real danger. Have a good one.
How she end that with have a good one? I had to bust out the cedar pine. The cedar pine incense is supposed to be for negativity. And I am going to read this prayer. It says, negativity that invades my sacred place, I banish you away with the light of my grace. You have no hold or power here, for I stand and face you with no fear. Be gone forever, for this I will say, this is my sacred place, and you will obey. So mote it be. Listen, that's how we starting out this video today. That one, I don't think that I would be able to take reading any more of her story. I just couldn't.
Scary story time. Let's talk about it. But today I'll be sharing a real life story from one of my followers that I'll keep anonymous. She starts off by telling me that experiencing this made her realize that God and the devil is very much real. So let's get into it. So she said since she was 8 years old, she's always experienced really bad sleep paralysis. And she remembered one night her TV was on and there was this commercial playing. And she was sleeping, but she still remembered the commercial being on, but she was frozen. I'm talking about could not move, could not speak, could not move a hair, just frozen. And she remembered feeling this really dark energy. And that's when she seen her hair from the right side of her face blow up into the air. She said it was like a gust of wind. She stated once that happened, she heard the scariest, most hideous, I'm talking about never heard before kind of laugh ever. She said this wasn't like any type of evil villain laugh on a movie. She said this laugh was so demonic, she still remembered it to this day. She said that she could tell that the laugh was like making fun of her. And she said that she felt his breath in her ear. Mind you, she cannot move. And she stated that she knew it was the devil himself without a doubt. She said as this was happening, her rooms turned into mirrors. The walls, the ceiling, everything was a mirror. And she was back into her reality, but the room started disappearing. She said, you know those black and white hypnotizing spiral-like pictures? But that was her room, but it was almost like it was just fading away and disappearing. And in that moment, she said she knew exactly where she was going. The devil or that demon was taking her to hell. She said it's really hard to describe, but she said she knew it was like a feeling of doom. And by then it felt like eternity, like she was in this state for forever. It got to the point where she was just at this point, whatever it is, if you're gonna take me or whatever y'all gonna do with me, just do it. But she only thought those words, because mind you, she's in the sleep paralysis. She can't move, speak, or anything. She can only think it in her head. She goes on to say she accepted her faith at this point. She called out in her head, Lord Jesus, please help me. And she said in a snap, in an instant, her room and everything just went right back to normal. The same commercial that she stated that was on before she went to sleep was still playing. She said this was the worst, scariest spiritual thing that has ever happened to her. Ever since then, she was sober. She said she could still hear his voice and his breath on her ear. But she said it showed her how powerful God really is. And she goes on to tell me that she suffered from a lot of emotional abuse from her mom and her uncle. And I always say before, these spirits and this stuff to happen when you're going through trauma or something traumatic in your life. And she also stated how she lived in New Mexico in the middle of nowhere. And it's a lot of deep-rooted history in New Mexico. And she's always felt something very demonic or evil on that land. And she goes to tell me how she was always very spiritually sensitive. And so was her grandfather. That is crazy, y'all. This stuff is real. And these spirits attach themselves to so many different people based off their fear. And also, I just made a YouTube channel and the link will be in my bio.
I picked some doozies today. Oh my God. I'm feeling a little bit unsettled right now.
Do you even know that you can be poked with something, pricked with something, and then get possessed after? Scary story time. So there's this girl, and she's from Kenya. When you're in Kenya as a kid, you know that you can see things like cannibals, spirits, and witches and stuff, the usual. They are basically taught the same thing, that I told you guys I was taught growing up in Haiti. Like, don't answer to your name being called. Do not open the door if no one's outside the door. Anyways, when she was younger, she used to go visit her hometown with her mom, her grandma, and her siblings. And it was always so beautiful, and she always had so much fun. And often her mom would leave her with her grandma so she can go catch up with some of her people. Their family owned a house with like tons of land and like tons of people that lives nearby. So their grandma used to always let them play in the field. And she's 7 at this time. And as they were playing on the field, there was always this old woman just staring at them, looking very much angry. And so one day they were playing in the fields, and there she was, staring at them, looking angry. Her being a 7-year-old, she smiled and waved at the old lady. And when she did that, it's like she made that lady even angrier, like real angry, to the point where she tossed something into the field. Now, thank God that Grandma noticed that. And Grandma immediately told them, don't go over there and don't touch that. Stay away from it. But y'all know what they did? They went over there anyway. When they got over there, they noticed that the thing that she tossed was a really big bone. And she said it was the biggest bone she'd ever seen before, almost like a leg. So they just assumed that it was like an animal and they walked away from it. Anyway, the next day they went to the supermarket with their grandma. She's sleepy, y'all, so I gotta give her cuddles. And as they're at the supermarket, guess who they run into? That same lady, except this time she doesn't look angry. If anything, she looks like she's in a great mood. And so her 7-year-old self took that as an opportunity to try to apologize to the lady because she's always so angry. Now that they caught her in a good mood, they want to apologize. So she apologizes for both her and her brother. And the lady's like, oh, don't worry about it. That's okay. Can we hug it out? And her 7-year-old self knows better. And so she is about to say no. But before she even got the chance to say no, the lady hugs her anyway. And when that lady hugged her, she instantly felt something poke her in her back, like a toothpick or something. For those of you that might not know, but in Kenya and also many other cultures, if somebody puts a toothpick that pokes you in your back, it's related to witchcraft. So after she pokes her, she starts to wave her hand at her in like a ritual way. And as she's doing this, that's when Grandma notices. And when Grandma caught on to what was happening, she looked like she was about to faint.
But what happened after that?
A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
If you scare easily, go ahead and exit right now. Sorry it's windy outside, but last year my landlord had a very tragic and sudden passing and it shocked everyone. I didn't have a super close relationship with her or anything like that, but I did go to her services to pay my respects. Fast forward to November of last year, I'm having this dream, and the next thing I know, my landlord's in the dream. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And you know how when you're in your dream, it's like nothing necessarily is wrong, but something just feels off. Like you're having a surrealism moment. Fast forward, I'm at my landlord's house in the dream, and it's myself. She's there, she has a baby, and then there's another child there too, and we're in the backyard in her pool. But all of a sudden I feel the sense of like danger, like I should be afraid and I'm in danger, and she starts showing a lot of erratic behavior in my dream and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, I have got to get the kids out, myself out, and I need to get her help. Like we all just need to be safe. So I try to think of an excuse to go inside the house, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go get some more towels and I'm going to use the restroom while I'm in there. I get inside the house and I said, okay, I need to get upstairs so I can look out the window and make sure that they are still near the pool and nothing has changed, everything is fine. So I'm watching from the bathroom window down to the pool because I can see, and I'm on the phone calling 911 at the same time because again, I feel like we're all in danger. I don't know why, but that's just how I feel. And I was trying to explain to them, and something dropped, and I looked down for a second, and when I looked up, she had gotten up from the pool, and she was walking in the house, like in a hurry. And I was like, oh crap, and I just froze. All of a sudden, I feel my phone buzz, and I'm getting a text message. So while I'm on the phone with 911, mind you, so I look at my phone to read who the text is from, and it's from my landlord. It says, I can hear you. Can you hear me? And the fear set in, and it set in so deep that it woke me up out of my sleep. Like, I came to so quickly. I literally had a text from her on my phone in my dream, and it said, "I can hear you. Can you hear me?" Was she trying to make contact with me? That messed me up so bad. Like, I had to talk to my best friend about it, and she's trying to make contact with me from another plane. I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
It happens because some of us are gifted. I am very gifted. I see stuff. I can get deep into it. I see a lot of stuff. But when my sister told me that, I knew I wasn't tripping. And we just discussed this a few years ago. In our 30s. Well, I'm in my 30s, so when I tell people about it, they call me crazy or whatever. But You know, why would a parent not come back and visit their child? You know, I'm sure my mom missed me and my sister, whatever. So, like this house I'm living in now, that's why I'm outside in this truck. I've been in this house 3 years. I actually live on a slave plantation. In Dallas, it's called the Miller Plantation. The area I stay in, I think this was a freedman town. They freed slaves from down here. I've been here 3 years, and I have been seeing haints since I've been in this house. Stuff has been moving, paranormal activity, just all kinds of stuff. Oh Lord, I got a million stories for y'all. These people are driving so fast down the street. I'm sorry, but I have a million stories for story time. I didn't want to convert to this side of TikTok, you know, and go here and discuss this stuff because I know, talking about certain stuff can open doors. But I'm talking about my mother. But if y'all want to hear about the stories or the other stuff I have, some what's going on in my house that my kids see. And the funny part is nobody is scared because, things feed off of fear. If you show fear, they like fear. Like, you have to let them know, hey, I'm not scared. I pay rent up in here. You can't be in here rent free, and I'm paying all the bills and rent. You gotta move around. That's when that blessing oil come out. Some people use sage. I wouldn't mess with it, but my religion we do blessing oil. But I know I said oil, it's a Texas thing, but it's one of my GHOST stories, or my spirit stories that I'm sharing with y'all. This is one of them, but if you would like to hear more, please let me know in the comments. And I will share more stories with y'all. I wish my daughter was here so she could tell y'all, about what we see and what we deal with every night. How we up and, not scared, but just up, being annoyed all night. But thank y'all for letting me share. Like I said, if y'all want to hear more, let me know.
Now, she said ghost through her entire video, and at the end she want to spell GHOST. Girl. And I am quite sure she has crossed over to that side of TikTok, and I know people told her they wanted to hear her stories.
Have you heard about this supernatural phenomenon that sometimes happens to people in really bad car wrecks? Well, apparently multiple people who have been in horrible car accidents have reported seeing the same strange thing. It's called the third man syndrome, and it's when a supernatural presence offers comfort to a victim during a survival situation.
For example, after a terrible car crash, you may see someone, hear someone, someone may help you, or you may be of help to someone who is actually not there.
This is the first time I've heard the name, but this is not the first time I've heard about this experience. The reason why I have this background is because of the proof that I found in my mom's story. So when my mom was 8 years old, she was about to get kidnapped. Her friend had invited her to do Girl Scouts after school, but she was not a part of the program and she did not have a permission slip, but she really wanted to go do Girl Scouts. Her friend said that her mama would take her home after they got done with Girl Scouts. And she also thought like even if she didn't, she still could walk home because it'll still be light outside. So after Girl Scouts, her friend's mom pulls up and it's just a car full of people. There's no room for her and they about to go to Chuck E. Cheese afterwards, so they can't take her home. So because of that, she decided to just walk home before the instructor came out because she didn't pay for that program. She normally walks to school, so she knows the way. But this time she decided to take a shortcut because the sun is going down, it's about to get dark. And lo and behold, by the time she got down to the middle of the street, it was already nighttime. So on this shortcut, it's a very scary creek, and it's known to have spooky stories, and it's a lot of stuff that happened in that creek. As she's walking come upon this creek, she hears crackling and crunching of leaves like somebody is walking behind her. She felt like somebody was watching her. Immediately, she stopped for a second to try to listen. Maybe it's the wind, and maybe it's dogs or something, a squirrel. But my mom is from the hood. She decided to turn back and go back the same way she normally goes when she walks to school. And when she turned around to walk back the same way she came, she literally heard loud walking behind her. The leaves was crunching. Now, out of nowhere, a girl that lived on the street, closer to the school, who was the same age as her, came outside and asked her if she could walk her home. She's like, yeah, I'm about to walk my dog. Let me walk with you. She gave off a really friendly aroma, just nice. But when my mom saw this girl in school, she gave off Wednesday vibes. In school, she always wore dark clothes and she smelled like pee and dog. When my mom was in front of her house, house. The house was real spooky. The grass was high, would not even cut. And the kids at school in the neighborhood will always tease this girl. Everybody in the neighborhood thought this girl and her family was a witch. And she never talked to anybody and always kept her head down. But my mom was so scared she took the offer. She had this dog that was all black and didn't even have a leash. It was very obedient. My mom kept asking her, "It's dark. Who's going to walk you back?" And she insisted. She said, "Oh, the dog's going to walk me back. I'm fine. I'm protected. You ain't got to worry about me." Her and the dog walked her to the corner of the street. My mom thanked her and asked her if she could have somebody from her family walk her back home. She insisted that she's safe. Nobody's going to bother her. My mom was like, "Okay." She said, "Thank you for walking with me." My mom walked a couple of steps from the corner, and my mom just couldn't let go of the fact that there was somebody who was following her, and this little girl is about to go by herself back to that same area. She looked backwards to try to convince her, like, "Hey, let me get somebody to walk you," and she was not there, or the dog. My mom looked up the corner where she was supposed to be walking. No one, nobody, nothing, no dog. It was quiet. My mom was so shocked. She ran out of fear, and she ran so fast that she couldn't even feel her feet. She got home, and the next day at school when she saw the girl, she said, "Hey, how are you? I saw you last night." She walked right past her and didn't say nothing. Like she didn't even know my mom. She tried to ask her about last night. She didn't even say anything. Like, "I don't even know who you are." Like she was a very quiet girl. When she got home from school, the news was on. There was a young girl who was abducted and murdered, and her name was similar to my mom's name. My mom's name is Shay. And look, the body was found in weeds near a creek near St. Charles Rock Road. This is where my mom was at. After that, my mom went to church religiously every single day, every evening. She joined the choir. She was scared because the same name, the same pronunciation, and it was only 6 blocks away from her house where that girl got abducted. My mom actually got to see the person who saved her life the next day, but she didn't remember anything that she did, and she wouldn't talk to her like she didn't even know her. So what would you call this story?
Guardian angel. What they say, the third man syndrome. What man is it?
Just chilling on my bed, like watching something, and I look up. This is what I see. Can you see that? Can you see him? I'm home alone. That scared the absolute shit out of me. Oh my.
Imagine being home alone and suddenly noticing someone or something staring at you. At first, you're convinced it's familiar, maybe even comforting. But then, you realize it's not who you thought. That face you trusted, it's not who it seems. Panic sets in as you try to piece together what's really happening, hoping it's all just a trick of the light.
I gasped. I went, "Oh my god, I gotta put him somewhere else." Oh my god. And now I can't even watch my show. Like, I'm just staring at Sungwa. He's staring at me, I'm staring at him. I can't stop.
When a shadowy figure blends in just enough to seem familiar, it's easy to let your guard down. But sometimes, that familiarity is exactly what makes it so unsettling. You can never be sure who or what is hiding in plain sight. Maybe next time, think twice before assuming you know who's watching.
If she don't get up and go knock that thing down, it looks like a Jason mask or something.
Y'all want to hear about the time a demon lived upstairs in my house? So we bought our first home last year, November of 2023. There had only been 2 families that had lived in it prior to us. It was originally a 3-bedroom and 2-bath home, but the man that lived in it before us had converted the attic to an upstairs living space with a bathroom in it as well for his 19-year-old son. I believe that they lived here for several years until the son got into a car accident and unfortunately passed away. He did not pass away in this home, and let me make this clear that I do not believe that spirits are people that are left behind. I believe that they are all demons. So when we first toured the home, we went upstairs and it did feel a little off, but I think that we were just so excited about the prospect of buying a home that we didn't really pay much attention to it. However, a few days after we moved in, we started having multiple experiences. So within the first couple of days, we started hearing a lot of noises upstairs. It would sound like somebody was walking upstairs. We would hear bangs and crashes. Our kids would have their doors opened at night. We would see things in our peripheral vision. I started dealing with very severe depression and crying spells. It was awful. So naturally, we went upstairs to pray it out. And while we were upstairs, I really felt like the Lord told me that something was hidden up there. So we began checking all the places that we thought something might be hidden. So we started in the bedroom, worked our way through the hallway, checked the crawl space that was in that room, and then I headed towards the bathroom where there was another crawl space. As I got to the door, I opened up the bathroom door and immediately something slammed it right back in my face. I called for my husband. He came over there with me. He got in that crawl space and almost immediately found a box that had been covered by insulation. When we opened this box, we found a bunch of alcohol bottles that were either empty or mostly empty, but we also found a tore up white t-shirt that looked like it had blood on it. So we immediately grabbed it and went to go dispose of it, and the Lord spoke to my husband and told him to anoint the threshold of the door that is at the top of our stairway. At this point, we knew that it wasn't gone, but we knew that we needed to start praying and fasting, since the Bible says that some of those things only come out with prayer and fasting. However, anointing the threshold of the door kept it up there. It could not cross that anointed line beyond the door, and you could tell it was mad. The banging footsteps and just the general activity upstairs increased because the demon was so angry that we had locked it upstairs. It was around Christmas at that time, and I do lighted garland around my stairway, so every night before bed, one of us would have to go over there and unplug it before we went to sleep, and you could literally see at the top of the stairway a 6 or 7 foot giant black man-looking creature just staring and seething at you. So this is my stairway, and you can see up there is where I'm talking about that we anointed that threshold, and you would see something right there just standing and staring at you. So we ended up actually calling about 6 of our friends and asking them to come pray through the upstairs with us and also be fasting with us to try to get this thing out of there. And we didn't plan it this way, but it just turned out that none of them could come on the same night. So it ended up being like 2 could come on Wednesday, 2 could come on Thursday, and 2 could come on Thursday. So there ended up being 3 nights consecutively of us praying through the upstairs. So the first night, one of my friends was coming, and I was on the phone with her as she was pulling into my driveway. And as she pulled in, she immediately said, "Who's upstairs?" And I said, "Nobody's upstairs." And she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Somebody is standing at your upstairs window, just staring at me through the window." When I tell you, when you crossed the threshold of that upstairs door, full body chills, like you knew something up there hated you. Every single person that we brought up there through those 3 nights literally would stop as soon as they got over that threshold of that door and be like, "Oh my gosh, what is up here?" When I tell you we slathered that upstairs in oil, we slathered it in oil. Thankfully, the 3rd night, you could visibly feel something release and leave, and we haven't had any issues up there since until recently. All of a sudden, I started doing these videos exposing these spirits, and lo and behold, we've started having noises again. I'll take you guys up there for a tour in my next video just so you can kind of see what it looks like, and maybe you guys can let me know what you feel or what you see. Let me know if you have any stories similar to mine and what you did.
So why would you continue to do the videos if that's what's making the activity pick back up again? And then you want to go and share the space with people.
Just imagine getting stuck out here. 10 minutes later. I tell you, I do some shit. When they come down, the motherfucker trying me, bitch, I'm getting the fuck up. Bitch, I'm gonna do something to get the fuck out of there. That's number 1. But look at this fucking road. This looks fucking terrible. Oh god, so it's like somebody behind us and shit. So it's like, oh god. This is fucking wild. This is fucking wild. It's like a little bit of street lights. You see that shit? You know how I hate when people are fucking behind us. I can't stand on this fucking road. I can't do it. I hate it. And not in the fucking 12 and fucking night. Like, hell no. It's gonna be a wrap on fucking lifestyles. You feel me? We gotta make it to that fucking park. Is it right there? It's behind us now. Y'all see this shit? It's like a fucking chase, yo. What the fuck? I told y'all, anything can fucking happen. It's crazy. It's right there. The headlights right there. Right on us. Yeah, I see that shit. That shit fucking crazy.
That is crazy. And that park is in Baltimore.
Story time real quick while I wait on my friend to get out the store on how I knew that this guy was basically possessed or he had another spirit like just hanging out in his body and with him. So there's this guy that I work with, and And he one day just at work ended up helping me out, and he basically, he thinks that I'm cute or whatever. And he didn't have to tell me that, but you could just tell when like how a dude approach you, how they talk to you, like you just already know. But y'all, there was just always something off about dude eyes. Like I could never tell what it was. I'm like, something's always off. And like that's how you could tell, like through the eyes. Like I look people in their eyes for real. So long story shorter, one day we end up hanging out like over at his house. And like, mind you, something in me is like, like it's not that you shouldn't go, but like, you know why you want to do this. And I couldn't tell why I felt that way, but I was also like, usually like I don't go hang out with people, but we was gonna smoke or whatever. And so I get to his house and I pull up and the shit's all dark and shit, and I'm just a little concerned because I'm like, I don't know. But then after that, I go inside and like I'm noticing that his room is like kind of dirty, like kind of a mess. His mattress on the floor, but I'm like, that'll make me know, never mind. I remember when my mattress on the floor, so I'm not judging, right? Especially when you live by yourself and you're young, you just trying to figure shit out. So we get to smoking and I ask him if he's spiritual, and he kind of hesitated a little bit, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's cool, and he was like, yeah, like I used to ghost hunt. And I was like, you used to what? You used to what? And he was like, yeah, like me and my brother, we would go and we would ghost hunt, and I was like, okay, well, you don't do that shit no more, right? Because if you do, like, I respectfully, not even respectfully, disrespectfully, I gotta go. Like, I'm not talking to nobody who be ghost hunting and who be asking spirits to come talk to them. I'm sorry. And he was like, no, but like, why'd you say it like that? Now, mind you, as soon as Buddy had said I used to ghost hunt, I got chills a little bit, and I had felt instantly the presence of like another spirit or another being there. And like usually I'll see shadow people, like shadow beings and stuff like that, but I've never seen like, what I'm saying, a physical form or something. But you can always tell when there's something else in the room. And I already tell him I'm finna have to make a part 2. But anyway, so as soon as he said that, like I felt the presence, and I knew that that was what I had always been seeing in his dude eyes. Because mind you, I'm like, I don't know what it is about dude eyes, but it's something about him. And so when he told me that though, I was like, I just kind of peeped that there was something there though. All right. But now I kept my cool because I just locked eyes with the spirit though. Like once I knew it, I was like, I see you. I know that you're there. Like basically don't try no fluky shit. Okay. And so after he said that, like we're having another conversation, and I'm just talking to him, like about God and spirit and like how, things really go, like the vibrations you have once you booming. If you know what booms are, then you know. If you don't, you don't.
You went wrong when you went to his house, girl.
I don't think it's a coincidence that I had this dream right after I had surrendered my life to God. So this happened on New Year's Eve. And before that, me and my friends were making plans, trying to figure out what to do, what clubs to go to. But as it led up to the day, I just did not feel right. I felt like this tug, this pull on me that was telling me, girl, you need to stay home. And I felt like that was God. So I hit up my friend and canceled plans. Okay, so now we're in New Year's Eve, and at one point I had decided to go and take a nap. It was for like 1 or 2 hours, and I thought I had woken up, but my dream was still me laying down in bed. And just like in real life, in my dream, I'm facing the wall, and my back is toward the bedroom door. And all of a sudden, somebody had entered. I hear somebody walk into my room. And then I tried to sit up and face the door, but my body, it stiffened up. It like went paralyzed and I could barely move. I was very rigid, and I tried to yell the words, "Wake up." And as I spoke, it wasn't my voice. The voice that I heard was dark, guys. It was disturbing, demonic. It said, "Wake up," a deep voice. And as soon as it said those words, immediately my body like got dragged out of bed, like some sort of invisible force grabbed me and just took me. And I'm screaming, I'm flailing around, trying to grab onto something to prevent it, to stop it from taking me to this dark realm. And as this was happening, my eyesight was getting blurred. So I could see my room, but then it would get overshadowed by darkness, and then I'd see it again, but then boom, overshadowed by darkness. This was happening multiple times. And then I hear myself calling out to God, screaming. It was like muffled kind of screams, but I'm just like saying, God, please don't take me. Please don't take me. I'm crying, I'm gasping, and I'm still trying to grab onto things to prevent myself from going back to that dark place. And all I could use was my voice. I had no control over my body, but the force that was dragging me, guys, I could feel its energy. It felt angry. So I was pleading to God one last time. I said, Lord, please help me. And that force all of a sudden just dropped me. It left the room. I no longer felt its presence. And I woke up right after that. Guys, I was too scared to even get out of bed. And at first, I thought the force in my dream was God, right? But that definitely was not God.
No, that definitely was not.
Tell me, what's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life?
So I work in advertising where we produce and shoot commercials for various clients. One of the commercials we were working on required a set that looked like a 1980s Irani hospital. And we're Utah based, so that's something that's really hard to find here. Luckily, our producer tracked down it had been an old nursing home and a mental hospital back in the day, and it was no longer in use. It was really old and kind of grungy looking. It was perfect. We go there, and as soon as I walk through the door, I just feel this bad vibe, like in the pit of my stomach. I just felt gross. It was just this weird energy in that building, and it's kind of funny because our art director walked in the door. Well, this isn't funny, but as soon as he walks in, he just throws up all over the place. And I don't know if he had been sick before, but he was definitely extremely sick in that building. He ended up curling up on an old hospital bed and just throwing up the rest of the day. I actually had to go buy him a bucket because he was so sick. He probably should have gotten the heck out of that place, but I think he was too sick to drive even. I felt so bad. Anyway, on our lunch break, I was talking to our hair and makeup lady, and she knew a little bit more about the building because I went in completely blind, and she was like, yeah, a lot of weird things have been known to happen here, and there's a lot of weird stuff in here. There's supposedly this old electroshock therapy chair in the basement, and I was like, ooh, I want to go see the electric chair in the basement. That sounds like a fun adventure, and being naive and just wanting a thrill, I was like, oh, let's go explore. And we had the whole building locked down for ourselves. There was no one else but our film crew there. So together we just kind of go prancing through the hallways, looking in rooms, and we get to the edge of this really long hallway that's completely covered in a green carpet. And she goes, oh my gosh, this is called the Green Mile. I've heard of this. And I'm like, what's the Green Mile? And she said, it's the hallway where they used to wheel patients out to surgery. And there's a lot of stories about this hallway. And as soon as we're standing there, she all of a sudden just freezes and like looks down into the abyss of the hallway, towards the end. And I follow her gaze, and this door comes open, and this huge figure just glides across the hallway. And it's completely black. It's kind of like distorted, oblong, humanoid, but bulbous. Its head was like kind of bulbous, and it just glides across the carpet, goes into this other door, and that door just slams shut. I'm in complete shock. We are just staring frozen down this hallway, and I'm gonna have to do part 2. Sorry.
Oh, I hate that. I don't have part 2. Sorry.
What is one of the creepiest things a kid has ever said to you? I'll go first.
Unfortunately, in 2006, my mother passed away. And at the time, my niece was a year old. And they didn't spend much time together. And I felt like, wow, she passed away when my niece was a year old. She really never got a chance to get to know her grandmother. Even though I was not close with my sibling, I decided to stick around and be an aunt because I wanted to be a representation for my mother. So weekly, I would babysit her. So one day, I was watching my younger niece and had to go pick up my older step-niece from school. So I get my niece dressed, we go walk to the school, and as we're walking to her sister's school, she just says out of nowhere, I wonder if my grandma's going to come visit me again. And I said, what are you talking about? And she used to call her sister's grandma Abuela. So I'm like, is she talking about her sister's grandmother? What is she talking about? So I get down on my knees and I look her in her face and I'm like, what grandmother are you talking about? And she's like, no, not my sister's grandma, my grandma, silly. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because the grandma she's talking about has to be my mother. Now, when I would be over my siblings' house, sometimes I would sleep over there because I would have to wake up early to babysit, and I would sleep in their basement. So my niece proceeds to tell me, my grandma visits me in the basement. And that's when I'm like, what? I'm freaking out. Like, there's no way. Like, I've never seen my mother's spirit in this basement. And she says to me that her grandma plays with her and gives her hugs and kisses in the basement. I didn't want her to see I was freaked out. I didn't want to freak her out just in case she no longer wanted to go in the basement anymore for her visits. So I just brushed it off and we went and picked up her sister and got back home. I told her mother and her mother was just like, well, I don't want to scare you, but lately she keeps going in the basement. Sometimes we cannot find her. And when we do find her, she's playing in the basement. For 2 years, I kept feeling like, why isn't my mother not visiting me? Why don't I feel her next to me? And the entire time, she was around. And it was weird because I do have a spiritual gift where I can see demons, I can see spirits, I can see all kinds of things. But I just never saw my mother. But after that, my mother started coming to me in my dreams. My niece never mentioned it. I've asked her, she's a grown woman now. I've asked her about it and she doesn't remember. Listen when kids are saying weird things. It might be a message for you.
Absolutely right. So that is it for today, Rooted Collective. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also share my videos with your friends, your family, your enemies, your whoever, a stranger on the street, whoever you want to share it with. And let me know what you think about the video in the comments. I want to keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.